I was thinking about, you look at the two sessions that are offered back to back. You get one that is on RFPs, and the other one you have the opportunity to hear from, what is it? It's Royal Philips, Clorox, and FedEx. So who's going to go to what session? And as I look around, I recognize several faces, and I know who's here, and it's those who recognize the depths to which they go, to deal with an RFP, and I think we share something here, and I just looked in my inbox, and all I will share with you is one sentence, and it's the opening sentence of a back and forth that I have in an email that I just got. This is an internal one. I won't share any additional information with you other than one sentence says, this company's stupidity is breathtaking. So I will. Oh, wait a second. He's following me with a camera. I will put my phone down lest anybody figure out who we're talking about there. So our session, I hate that I have to come stand behind this podium to advance this, but if you didn't know, I'm Casey Brown, and I am, believe it or not, I am an optimist. And I went through, in spite of what you may have heard in the last session, that, and as I went through and thought about all the different things that we could cover in this session, I thought, probably the one that would be most compelling and what everyone would hope that I would present would be this. It's, all right, here are the 5 things we do to win RFPs, and perhaps to win RFPs against you. And I can guarantee you this is not what we will be talking about today. It's a unique combination of topic and audience. And so I really went over and over, probably changing my approach to this 6 times over the past 6 weeks to figure out what would be appropriate, and it's billed as a how-to session, and I think what I've turned it into is more of a how-do session. How do we do this? And I say we, not in the royal we, but in the how do we as AMEC members approach this? And speaking of the Royals, I'll just share this with you that I saw on the flight over. I made reference to this last night at dinner. I sometimes wonder if 2/3 of the globe is covered in red carpet. So, and as I saw this, and it just made me chuckle to no end. But I recognize that all of us have a perspective, and always our perspective is limited, and it's hard to get outside of that. And can anybody think of why this struck me and tickled me in reference to RFPs? Can anybody?
We're constantly rolling out the red carpet every time you.
So yeah, we're constantly rolling out the red carpet. So for us, the red carpet, the part that we see, is the bottom part because that's the part that we're rolling up or rolling out. And yet for the buyers, what they're constantly seeing is just the red carpet. And so their expectations are, and their framework is different than our framework. Anyway, it made me chuckle on one level because you know what was on my mind as I was on the Air France flight over. So let me take a quick few moments to do something. Let's divide the room. We have 3 sections, and so I'm curious in this room, how many of you are in a position where you are writing or coaching through the writing of RFPs? Okay, Fantastic. So wait, raise it once again. We have, so 4 and, oh, you're half raised, 4 and 4. Oh, and Angie we've got as the tiebreaker, which means y'all are going to that side of the room. So I thought it was 4 over there. I'd like you to, I don't know. Hello, welcome. Hello. Do you write RFPs?
No.
No, fantastic. You can stay right where you are. I would like the 4 of you and Angie to move to that side of the room. You're going to move to the left side of the room. So then my question is, how many of you are in a position where you're primarily responding to RFPs? That's
responding to us.
Responding to RFPs. That's what
okay. Let's go. Let's go back. Ready? Here. Okay. Here we go. All right. Ready? Okay. Hi. I'm Casey Brown. No. So let me ask this again. All right. We're going to divide the room. How many of you, Angie? But you may be alone. How many of you are in a position where you are writing and issuing requests for proposal? How many of you are writing those, crafting those? We get 1, we get 2. Tim's volunteering. So 2?
Wrong room.
Huh? So no. So you 2 are writing them. You go sit next to Tim. Slide over, Tim. Just slide over a second. So, how many of you are coaching people through the writing of RFPs? So yeah. So you're coaching folks through answering. Okay. I should have started with. Some people write and issue RFPs. Some people respond to them. This is the classic, call and response. So the calls. Does that make more sense? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask everybody else who's sitting in the middle to slide to the side. Because everybody else you're responding to RFPs. That's why you're here. Okay, you're over here. All right, you're over here. Mike, where do you put yourself?
Executive seating arrangement.
Okay, and you're responding to RFPs. We'll have you 2 say. So you 2 sit here in the lonely middle. You 2 sit, and Mike will join you. No. I mean literally on the other side of the aisle. On the other side of the aisle completely. This way the video looks like it's a completely empty room. That's what we're going to do. So, I'm going to give you. We're going to take this. This will be easy. Maybe I have 2 lovely assistants here. I have Sarah and Liam who are going to help me through the day here. Actually, Sarah, do you want to go sit on that side of the room and join them? I'll handle the middle. There you go. You can handle this. These are going to be your. All right.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
All right, here you go. Here's your survey instrument. All right, hand them out over here. No. I have stacks and stacks and stacks. So share them around there. I have a single question that I would like you to write, and it's deliberate that I've given you a single small piece of paper because I don't want a long answer here. So my question is, what is the single most infuriating thing about a request for proposal? What's the single most difficult thing? I mean, I'll stick with my original wording: infuriating, not difficult.
Making furious, you mean?
Huh? Yeah. What's frustrating or yeah. So it could be a word, could be a phrase, probably less than a paragraph. Oh, you would like pens. You're digital. You can email it. How about that one? Or no, I could give you this one. That way it's a big fat. You won't be able to write nearly as much, but it'll bleed through. Use multiple pieces of paper there. All right. When you have something, you can give it to Liam on this side of the room. You can give it to Sarah on that side of the room, and I'll collect them. Oh, do you write RFPs and send them out to people? Sometimes, or do you more?
No,
Or
we're answered.
you're more answering them.
Yeah.
Why don't you join your Kantar colleague right over here? Yeah, this is a lonely part of the room. You can't.
Are we supposed to write it from the perspective of the writers?
Yes, I think so.
Oh, we
That's-
are?
Yes, yes. What's the most infuriating thing about the RFP process as far as
us to write.
for and in writing them or in receiving responses, whatever it is. All right. Do you have all your answers, Sarah?
I don't.
Liam, do you have all your answers?
I haven't collected.
Yeah.
Are you collecting team? Yeah, well, I'm taking team.
You're throwing off my whole system if you're going to. It's a green piece of paper. So it looks like all the respondents were quick and decisive. It seems like the people in the middle of the room are verbose and slow. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding you. Oh, you changed your mind? That's a.
Yeah. Well, no, I changed perspective.
Perspective, that's right. It's a change in scope. All right.
Okay, what am I the last one? Take
No.
All right, here you go.
No, I'm sure we're going. All right. So I'm going to share these with you as well. So now I will start in the middle, and then we'll go one from each side. Would one of you like to share with the group what you're thinking? Just because we've got a video camera and we're also recording the sessions, I'd like you to come up here and to share with us. So, and just what do you find frustrating or infuriating about?
Well, it's from the perspective of having worked with a number of clients at former agencies and current agency, helping write the RFP, and then you get basically cookie cutter responses from a bunch of vendors. And it actually helps on some level because you can weed them out right away, because there are two or three groups that may have actually invested time. But I think for a client who's reviewing RFPs, if you get cookie cutter responses, it's basically not only wasting your time, but it's a waste of the process.
Okay. So, cookie cutter responses. And who would like to speak for the right side of the aisle here? Or is this, I don't know, which way do you?
Casey, since we are, most of us, not native in English, could you say that again?
Generic
The cookie thing?
Oh, cookie.
Generic.
Yeah, but,
Okay, thanks.
yeah, very generic. So, who had something that they thought was particularly infuriating? Come on, you have the floor.
I won't be long.
So tell us who you are first and where you're from.
I'm Sam Knowles. I'm the joint UK MD of Echo Research.
Great.
Lack of clarity, ambiguity, lack of specificity. Simply that.
Okay. Anybody from this side of the room? Okay, we go. It's like what?
Like a confessional.
Yes.
You see where we're going here.
James Davis from Impact, and the great problem I have with them is the questions are irrelevant, both to the task but also to the scale of my organisation, which is small, and they're asking questions which are totally irrelevant to that size organisation, even though we've been invited to tender.
Okay. So could I say that it's almost like they don't even know who they're sending it to?
No, I think they do it. They're just lazy. They ask the same questions.
So a cookie cutter RFP.
Exactly. It's a template, and they've not actually adapted the template for the task or for the people they've asked and chosen to actually put in a proposal.
Okay. Okay, great. Does anybody else have anything else a layer they would like to add on to that? Jonathan? No, you can't talk to her. You have to go to the... Sorry. This is the...
Jonathan Wenno, Client Service Director at TNS Sifo in Sweden, part of Kantar Media. I'd say that I don't follow the English perfectly, but you were talking about generic things. I rather say that one problem I see is that sometimes the deliverables are specified very much, but not it's not very good specified how they are to use the deliverables. That I see as a major problem.
Okay.
Yeah. You see what
I understand. I understand precisely. So, are you getting that one? Okay, great. So, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to move because I know exactly who you are and I know what you do. You're going to no. You're going to have to sit over here because we're talking about people who write and issue RFPs. Get to sit in the middle. Everybody else has to sit on the side, and you're a respondent to RFPs. So, right?
Yes.
Yes. There's where we go. So, this is very important that we segregate. Now you got me completely lost here. So the next question, and so if we can get everybody a fresh sheet, the next question has to do with financial resources, and this is getting back to algebra. So we have to think about x, and I want x to represent the value, the 12-month value of a contract to be won from an RFP. So imagine that you've won a contract, an annual contract, at the end of an RFP process. Does that make sense, Michael? You still?
Still waiting for the punchline.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. So that's to equal X. So you expect it to be, 100,000 euros, 100,000 pounds, $100,000, whatever that is. You expect that to be X if you win this deal. All right. In your case, it's if you award the deal, you expect it to be X. What percentage of X would you expect to invest in responding to and hoping to win the RFP? Does that make sense? So what percentage of a 12-month top-line value of that contract would you expect to invest? All right?
Is it what you wish to invest or what you have to invest?
No. What you will invest. What you're willing to invest. How much are you willing to invest? And so for you, it is how much you would expect to invest.
Do you want a percentage or a dollar amount?
Percentage.
Exact or range?
Exact. I want exact. I don't want a range. I don't want a range because I want an exact. What percentage are you willing to invest in order to win this? As an issuer, or a? Yeah, I think that's what I'm. That's.
Are you talking about it in terms of time or financial, in terms of cost?
Cost. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you need to bake everything in there, not just out-of-pocket costs. Is it worth it for you to invest? 10%.
It depends,
But
That's my answer.
no, it depends. Won't cut here. I need to because we want to put this in a graph, and it depends on putting a graph.
Is it more the
So,
margin that you would make from winning that contract?
No. How much are you willing to invest? What's the total cost of the contract?
100,000 pounds.
I shouldn't give you math. This is a group I shouldn't give math.
5%, 5,000.
So this is
Yeah.
your ideal then, client, because you're going to be willing to invest more if it's the ideal client, ideal project, ideal program.
Okay,
So you want us to go with ideal?
go with that. You go with that.
Just do it.
Just do, yeah.
Stick any number there.
Oh yeah, I get it. Collected these.
I think we did the wrong color, but.
Okay.
We are talking about time costs as well.
All right. Okay, so we've got at least most responses in. Liam, do you want to just rattle them off real fast? What do you?
1%, less than 5, 7, 10, 20, 10, 7.5.
Okay. And what do you have there, Sarah?
Mostly five, 2 15s, 5, 8, 7, and prepared to invest up to 20% of the value of the RFP to win.
So who are the ones that said 20%? We'll hire them.
So, and interestingly enough, we had the responses from the middle were 5, and one of them between a range. Who would give us a range? No. Between 10 and 15%. Now, this surprises me. This really surprises me. One, that you're kind of all in agreement, but I recognize also that you're not a pure sample, if you will, in the sense that you both also come from this industry. So let's run through the math of that real fast. What's the margin on your business? What is the profit margin on your business? Is one thing, and I'm not asking anybody to answer that question, particularly with these guys in the room. But what's the profit margin on your business? So out of X, what percentage of that are you expected to keep within the first year? You may do lifetime value. You may say, we keep our clients for 3 years on average and 5 years, whatever that may be. So you may calculate a lifetime value. If you're willing to invest 20% in the winning of a project, how much margin is left in that first year to actually make any money off of that? So that's one way to think about it. Then think about it this way. How many competitors are responding to that RFP? So if you say you all have an equal chance going into it and there are 5 other companies responding, and you're willing to invest 20% into your response to win that business, your odds of winning that business are only 1 in 5. So you do the calculation there. There's no way that from a risk management standpoint that you could ever actually make money doing that. Does that math make sense? If one person responded 1%, another person responded less than 5%, my guess is the reason you're in here with me rather than to hear those great clients of Clorox, FedEx, and Philips is because you recognize that what you're doing today does not make financial sense. Is that you are over-investing in responses to RFPs, and that's a source of frustration. Would anyone agree with that? Would anyone strongly disagree with that? Would you come up here and share us why you strongly disagree with that?
Okay, so
No, I'm it's because her margins are 100%, and she wins them all.
Margot Sinclair Savelle from Research Data Insights, Hill and Alton. I strongly agree with that because I'm not here for financial reasons. I want tips on how to beat you.
So, do you really don't think you're over-investing?
It's hard to say because we're doing percentages of bigger RFPs. So, and I just think so much of it depends on who the client is and what the job is and how long the RFP
Yep.
is
So this gets to the point that you made earlier about did this RFP when it come in, is it actually one that I could legitimately win and serve? In which case your answer is probably 0 or close to 0 that you would invest in that. Whereas if it's what we would call a sweet spot client, I would be willing to overinvest. And I'm willing to overinvest for a few reasons. One is because I feel like the likelihood, if there are a total of 5 organizations in the bidding, I put my odds at greater than 20% that I'm going to win it because it's a sweet spot client. It aligns really well with what we're doing. The other thing is that if it is a sweet spot client by the way that we judge them, I recognize that the lifetime value of that client is much higher than if it's just, we're just fulfilling kind of their stamped out deals. You had...
I just want to say almost the same.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it would have been much better if you would have said it.
And the other thing that we do not call it over-investing, but because we plan these investments actually, because we know, we understand the historical data.
So it's a true investment.
Yeah.
It's a true investment. You had a...
But I think the problem is complicated by the fact that a lot of the overinvestment, we consider what that consists of, is to do with one of the frustrations that was in the RFP, receiving an RFP, is where the goals aren't set, where you have to double guess, or you have to explore, or you have to research what the client really wants to do. That's where the research time comes in, because actually the amount of investment you make in trawling media sources or finding out what the news has been about the brand for the last, that's relatively trivial for most of us, I suspect, on the supplier side. But it's actually thinking about business issues that you haven't been told about or have been wrongly articulated or missed the point that actually takes the time.
Yes.
Senior executive time.
I would agree completely. So, in other words, we spend the largest waste of our time, or the inefficient, I won't say waste, but perhaps the most inefficient aspect of this is in our almost rewriting the RFP so that we can respond to it. Is that an accurate conclusion? So let me go to what I see as the purpose of this session. And like I said, it's not here's 5 tips on how to beat Decision Global Analyst in an RFP situation. But instead, it's to figure out what we can do at an AMEC level. So I've put out kind of these objectives of something that as an organization, AMEC should strive to do. And my hope is that we use this session to kind of plant all the seeds and to prepare to almost come up with a tip sheet for people who would be sitting here in the middle. So how can we help guide them such that they can produce an RFP that we can properly respond to? So here they are. I'll take them point by point. One is to shorten the time from desire. So someone who wants to issue an RFP, from the time that they recognize that they want to do that until they actually issue it. Okay? So in other words, to make their job easier. But I say this also, shorten time, not just to make their job easier, but also to accelerate their purchase. To me, the acceleration of a purchase is valuable to growing the pie of our industry. Okay? And I think we sometimes fail to recognize the kind of the time value of money or whatever. Because we want to be able to grow quicker. Second is to shorten the amount of time from them issuing the RFP to them actually awarding the business, right? And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, as you talked about, a couple of you, them not properly understanding what their objectives are, that they just mention the deliverables but not saying what are we going to do with it once we get it. The next one, so increase the percentage of recipients of the RFP who are AMEC members. Let me ask a question. I was going to divide you along this line. How many of you in this room are a member of AMEC? Your organization a member of AMEC. So we have some who are not a member of AMEC. So I'm sorry, but we aim to exclude you. No, but one was, I don't know why you're not a member of AMEC, but we would encourage you to become so if you operate within this space. And we are a trade association, and what we want to do is we want to greater formalize the industry. We want to grow the industry. We want to learn from each other, and we want to professionalize what it is that we're doing. So, I encourage you to become a member. How about that? That wasn't one of my tasks, but I'll give it out there anyway. The next one, it's to decrease the amount of time that it takes for us to respond. The wasted effort. I wouldn't say to eliminate some of those inefficiencies. To decrease the time spent by AMEC members of responding to a straw man RFP. So who knows what I mean by a straw man? So we got one. So this requires some explanation. Would you like to offer a translation of straw man?
Straw man in research terms whether your existing supplier is providing you with a competitive price or value or whatever. So it's effectively not a real RFP. It has an ulterior motive behind it.
Yes. So people, and that's kind of the first thing I do when one of these comes in, is I sniff it and smell it and say, is this real? Is there real business on the other end of this or not? Because and if not, I'm obviously not going to invest much in it.
How do you recognize it?
Well, that's why I say smell, because it's that ethereal of a sense. So I think we want to talk about that. The next one is increase the likelihood that an AMEC member wins it, and ultimately to increase the amount of budget that people have available for this. All right. So my hope is that we can have discussion on these elements. What are the pitfalls? What are the efficiencies that we would like to see? And what I would love to come up with at the end of this is, I said, the kind of the working bits of what would ultimately be something that we would publish for AMEC members. Or I shouldn't say for AMEC members, for issuers of RFPs to come and say, I'm working on this. Now, let me ask you the question. As one who would write an RFP, would this be useful information?
We don't know who AMEC is.
Okay, a very good point. A very good point. A very good point. But we see these and you can read them for lots of organizations. Let me share with you some. Has anybody ever seen any of these things for other organizations, or does this seem out of character? So, like tip sheets on how to create an RFP for an industry, because they do exist. Here's you can read. Oh, I lost my things. There's a lot of them for professional. Here we go. The ABCs of great RFPs. It says, why spend so much time on an RFP? Who will gain from it? What should you set as a deadline? What in an RFP can alienate vendors? There's a lot of these. Do you have gotta-haves? Should you include a budgetary guideline? One of the ones that was asked before here is, do you want vendors to be creative? All right. So let's talk for a minute about this first piece. Who has any ideas about how that could happen? From someone creating a desire, I think I need this sort of work. I need this. How do I get to an RFP? How do I get to a position where I can find the right folks?
Hire a great consultant.
Hire a great consultant. All right. You know what I think is about? Will you take 2 minutes and tell us what your business is? You'll go ahead and do that. No, so because I would say that this does exist. Okay, go ahead. I'll provide my commentary at the end.
No. I bet you will, Casey. Okay, Angela Jeffrey. I'm founder of MeasurementMatch.com. I'm also here on behalf of one of my clients, Karma International. And what is my business? Well, actually, it was an outgrowth of VMS going under last August, and several of my clients coming to me and asking me to help them find new vendors and writing RFPs for the first time and really, really wanting to make them not terribly difficult for the vendors. So I insisted that the clients put budgets in, made sure that we got all of their must-haves, and then was very clear about the media that was required so that everyone could compete on a very level playing field. And it was a terrific experience. Both my first two clients were the Mayo Clinic and World Vision, and now I have others, agencies that are coming in. But what I've ended up building and realizing there's a business for is matchmaking, because there's so many vendors, no offense, and so many methodologies. It is a confusing nightmare. And if I have trouble after being in the field as long as I have, the poor client, I just feel so sorry for them. So,
okay,
that's
great.
it.
So who is it that usually is writing an RFP? And does anybody ever work with procurement? So what are they professionals in?
Buying and getting the best possible price.
Yeah, they're getting the best possible price.
Chairs or pencils or media analysis.
Exactly. So what do they know about analysis?
Nothing.
Nothing. Exactly right. So let me ask you your handy dandy survey instrument one more time. I want you to write a maximum of 3 things that should definitely be in an RFP for the work that we do. 3 elements that should be in there. If they're writing it, give me 3 elements that should absolutely be included in there. For you to provide a useful response. This isn't what I wish they would include. It is what do you think is really critical. Oh, here you want to do it with the green ones? Here's your stack. Here you go. You can have proper ones. I gave you green because you're the ones with the money, right?
Oh. What do we think should go into the RFP?
You know, what are 3 critical elements that should be included? It doesn't have to be 3. You can go less. All right, are we close to complete there? All right, before we share any of those answers, oh, I didn't collect from the middle here. Yeah. So, so now before we even share any of those answers, now I want you to say a maximum of 3 things that should not be in an RFP. Can you think of any of those? Do y'all have paper? Liam doesn't want to hit. I'm going to ask you to share some of the musts. Or should include. If you just share some of those. All right. All right, do we? Okay, are we close? There's still some pins flying, but
I'm stuck on
he's stuck. He can't think of a single thing that shouldn't be in an RFP, which is exactly my point. Is everything should be in an RFP. So, Sarah, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us just a few of the things that these are must-haves, and then I'm going to ask Liam to include some things that you say must not.
All of them have really come down to 4 main points.
Why don't you come up here so that we can catch it on the mic as well?
Scope, budget, goals, and a deadline, so a timeline to work towards as well.
Scope,
yeah.
budget,
goals, timeline.
Fantastic. That should absolutely be included. I like. Does that make sense? No? Okay. Now I'm wondering, did anybody write scope, budget, timeline, or goals as must not be included? No. What?
Though I forgot to include any of those on.
So, would you like to share? Go up to the mic so they can. You didn't have as much time to digest these, but.
No, do you want to do the green central people?
Yeah, I can do this. I'll say should not be included in the RFP. One, requiring any information that's not really needed. 2, an open budget mandating the massive waste of time for vendors. So in other words, blue sky. And 3, inviting bidders who aren't really liable. So in other words, because that's a big waste of time on their part, and on both sides. Okay, I want to come back to that one. So go ahead.
And the first 2 are actually covered by vendors in terms of, and also just too many questions on financials and too much in the way of procurement stuff, so tax, insurance, and all of that sort of lacking.
Okay.
That's about it.
Great. So let me go. We're gonna break out a whole new color here. Pardon? AVEs should not be included. AVEs. Great. Here, we're going to go blue sheets for everybody because this is going to be completely anonymous. How about that? But I want to learn from this. Here, I'll give you some here. So, because this is a sticky one for me. I'm not even sure how to phrase this question, so I'll go on and on for a bit, and then we can derive a question. But how can someone decide who is really capable of delivering? To your point, inviting bidders who aren't really not capable of providing the service, and so is there a way that someone could know that ahead of time? I'll start with this question. This is it's a yes or no question that you just jot it down and hand it in. Fold them in half so nobody sees what you write. If you get an RFP that you know that you really can't, you can't do what they've asked for, but you think you could do something that would,
Keep them happy.
I wouldn't even say that it's like, well, we'll give it a shot, and then if we actually win, then we'll figure it out, sort of, or it's we're going to keep our hat in the ring, and we will. I work with our salespeople all the time, and they're always like, oh well, yeah, look, we want to say all the right things so we can get to the next round. And I always want to say, I don't want to get to the next round if I'm not going to ultimately be able to win. You know, why go through this? But they play this pipeline game. So I want you to just write real small, don't let anybody else look. It's, are you willing to respond to an RFP that you don't have an absolutely legitimate purpose, you shouldn't legitimately be involved in? Phrase that better for me, Tim. I don't know how to.
Would you tilt at windmills?
Yeah. Windmill tilting. Does that make sense? So this is just a simple yes or no, a yes or no response. And Jonathan doesn't know which way to put it up. So then, and I won't even.
Supposed to read it that way?
Okay.
Okay, I remember you had a blue pen, you had a black pen. No, that's good. So, you know what? We'll collect this and share just in just a little bit. But so my next question is, because you need more blue paper. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to comment on what happens when you win those that you really shouldn't have pitched. It's hell. I mean, I won a couple of really huge ones, like worldwide ones. We didn't have the corporate support at a different company that I don't work at anymore. And yeah, I mean, you can't just make it up on the fly, especially if it's something big. You know, it's not a pretty picture, so it's better to pitch what you know you can do.
It's a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Did you capture that sigh? That was a. So here's a challenge for AMEC that I don't know that we as an organization are up to. But is it possible to actually articulate what our capabilities are in a way that we can differentiate such that folks would know, oh, okay, here are my requirements. Here are the organizations, this is the subset of the organizations who should be responding to it. Because I think if we were to write descriptions, we would all almost say we did the same things, and you would take offense if I said, no, I really don't think you're capable of that. I know that we're capable of it because X, Y, Z. But do you have an appetite for that? Go ahead.
Why would we expect to need to do that, actually? I mean, if I think about the market research business, which is much more, quote, regulated or compliance-focused, I don't believe there is, I mean, there are checklists for the client issuing the RFP to determine whether there is capacity and methodological capability by the client, by the potential vendors, but the process of selecting vendors, as far as I know, in the market research business is still about, is this seem a good fit? Do they have the capacity to deliver what I need, either in call centers or in methodological capability or research execs that understand the business, that kind of stuff. So even I'm not sure that it's necessary, is it, to, I mean, given the success of the market research business, I wonder whether we need to flog ourselves to death.
I would say on the flip side of that, the client knowledge, there are
It's
more
greater.
clients who have higher levels of knowledge about the market research business.
That is true.
Then there's client knowledge about the media analysis or public relations measurement.
Absolutely true.
Business. So, I mean, we're generally dealing with clients who don't know about this space, and so they're writing RFPs based on general PR knowledge, not necessarily industry-specific knowledge. They're sending it to firms that they've heard of, but might not know, or they've worked with one or two in the past, and so I think it's a little bit more blind than what you typically are dealing with in market research.
So the reason that my desire to do this, and the reason I think it would be useful for AMEC and provide value to folks who would be looking to AMEC for guidance in issuing an RFP, have to do with a couple of these questions. This one, increase the percentage of recipients of an RFP who are AMEC members. And the other one is to increase the likelihood that an AMEC member would be winning the business. And I think if if AMEC was playing a role of where it said, we do this to a degree to say this is a legitimate measurement company. They're not doing wily things, but we do that, we say they are legitimate, they're a legitimate research organization, but we almost stop there. We don't go and say they're legitimate in this space, they're legitimate in this geography, or whatever that may be. So let me ask another question. We have Blue again, and I'll ask this in two ways. You can write an answer on the top and an answer on the bottom. All right? Draw a line. Answer on the bottom. It's like an equation. So number one is, do you think that is a legitimate role of AMEC, or legitimate and valuable role to be able to articulate the unique capabilities of member organizations?
Individually or as a group?
Individually, to be able to say, you know, they are legitimate in these geographies, they are legitimate in these disciplines, beyond just that yes, it's a legitimate organization. So that's the top. Do you think there's a role that's a yes, no, for AMEC? Again, it's Blue. Here you go, Jonathan. So not every, so it's an anonymous response. An anonymous response here. So on the top is it legitimate? The bottom is, do you have an appetite for that? Are you willing to accept perhaps AMEC saying you're not really capable in Russia to provide good, you know, a full service in Russia, or that you don't have, you know, some other capability? Does that make sense? Sorry, John, I gave you one. So one, do you think that's a legitimate role for AMEC? Two, would you be willing to be subject to that? Because I think those are two very distinct things. So this is, what's your appetite?
Why do you ask them, Casey?
Why do I ask who?
Why do you ask these questions?
Oh, because I want to know legitimately what people are thinking. Because if everybody says, yes, I think AMEC should be able to do this, but no, I wouldn't be able to, I would not subject myself to it. We're a member organization. We wouldn't be able to pursue it.
Well, I guess we'll get the other answer.
We'll get that answer. So with that being said, does anybody have strong feelings about if AMEC should be involved in that sort of thing? Yay or nay?
Yeah.
So I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the model has been proven to work in other channels, in other disciplines. I'm talking from a parochial UK point of view, but actually I know that this happens in other territories. It's been proven to work in the UK through organisations like AAR, the advertising agency Register. But what you require is dedicated, knowledgeable personnel who can work in a completely even-handed way. So yes, we are members. We're members, and we entrust AMEC to look at the RFPs as they come into a set. Clearly, AMEC needs to be a lot more famous amongst the buyer community. But look at the RFPs as they come in, assess them, pick a reasonable shortlist of 3 or 4, and say to the prospect, these guys can do what you need them to do. I recommend that you meet them and that you talk to them. But it needs to be done in an even-handed way, and then there has to be a huge amount of knowledge, investment in full-time equivalent or full-time equivalents people to be able to know what the different agencies can do. And that means regular contact and regular meeting, and it implies significantly larger membership fees because you're going to be funding those people. So in principle, absolutely, and would absolutely give over to it, provided it worked in an even-handed and knowledgeable way.
Great. Anybody else have a thought on that? No? Anybody have a contrary opinion? I don't, but I'll voice it. Go ahead.
Well,
As the president of AMAC.
I absolutely.
Do you want to come up here just because I'll get chastised if you're.
Mike Daniels, Chairman of AMEC. I suppose my point is that I'm absolutely in agreement with your point that in an ideal world we would have the resources available to have some form of tender filtering process which would match, effectively run a matchmaking service. The problems we have realistically, though, are that we are a small group of vendors. We are not a big industry yet. We're growing, but we're not that big. And I think that the logistical and practical problems involved in creating that form of register process would be a matchmaking process. I think would simply be beyond our reach for the appreciable future. Bearing in mind also that our organisation is not just about agencies, suppliers anymore. It's about a broader community. I think we actually will get potentially greater value in the shorter term from increasing the dialogue between companies, vendors, and customers, which is what we're aiming to try and do for the moment. So not in principle, but I just think realistically for the next few years it's going to be difficult.
Okay. So what's the alternative? I mean, I think I know an alternative, which is what we're doing today. Is all trying to market ourselves individually, to overstate our capabilities, have our marketing ahead of our operations. Not to pick at scabs, but we run the risk of alienating the marketplace because we're allowing incapable winners to exist. I didn't write down my most frustrating thing about an RFP process, but it's probably the disruption that happens when they go out so wide that a piece of business that I know I am very likely to have a second bite at, but will be 2 years down the road because I know someone else will respond and win it on price, saying they can deliver something that will go disastrous, and then I'll be in a position to respond later. And at that point, one of two things happens. One is they're either very grateful to be working with someone who's capable of handling the work that they've given them, or second, they've been so burned that I have to prove success day one, and their radar is so high that it spoils the relationship for a good period of time because I'm having to go in. Too low of a price expectation has been set, and yet they've been burned on the service level, and so their service radar is really high. So I mean if I'm not misinterpreting, that's the environment that I think we're likely to continue to face. I'm asking you because you've said that what we're.
But what I didn't say was that I think one of the areas that we could improve and what AMEC is really active in doing through initiatives that James is running, for instance, in the knowledge share, is actually improving our professional competence as suppliers to be able to deliver more professional RFPs, and at some point we could be looking at compliance statements which say to the effect, and I don't want to double guess what we might do in the future, but potentially we could say, do not overstate your capacity as a compliant, as a membership compliance statement, for instance. So there are things that we could do that would improve confidence in the marketplace, that dealing with an AMEC member will, you will have the reassurance that they are complying with the statement of basic principles and quality standards. Some of that we already have in place. We don't have enough of them. I think if the professional development online college and the accreditation initiatives that we're undertaking can be pushed through, then I think we'll begin to get closer to that point.
Okay.
And I'm pleased to see that RFP issuers are nodding as we're saying that.
Yeah, when I think there's another thing that will help here, and it's kind of in between those two extremes, and it's being able to, I mean, some of the standards work that's going up, that we'll share a little bit on Friday on the social media front, and some of the traditional media things that are coming out, where right now the parameters or the parameters that clients are looking for, that vendors are responding to, are all over the map. And I think if we can kind of bring some of those parameters into clear focus, so they're, because they're a set of things that everybody competes with each other on, and then there are a set of things that frankly we all agree.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you wouldn't know that by reading RFP responses, because they're so all over the map. So I think there's some things that we can do through the standards process, to kind of streamline some of the areas that are just basic, that can almost become checklist items, if you will, and focus on, well, where are the areas that the different firms in the room might compete, and figure out how to get the discussion kind of away from the areas that to me are a waste of time, or we're debating things that are minutia, and get to, well, how are you going to deliver better insight than the other firm, or how are you going to help integrate the insight into the program through some other things that might be more differentiating than, whether you use a 3-point or 5-point sentiment scoring system.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. And I'm realizing that I should be inviting you all to speak from, or is this?
To be a member of AMEC, you have to be screened on a certain sort of quality control basis. So, in a way, that's covered. Whether you can do that exercise in Russia, say, for example, is entirely down to you, because if you think commercially you could manage that process, you can. I don't think it's for AMEC to say, yes, they can do it in the UK, but they can't do it in Russia. So there is an argument that actually the quality control that you have when you become a member at first is repeated. But it's not really for AMEC to talk about logistical capabilities, because that's something different, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. So let me go ahead. Speaking of Russia.
I just want to add that it's about the reputation of the things, because when you just answer to a RFP and your price is high but your reputation is high, so client could choose you. And AMIC as an association, its role just to show our clients that if you're an AMIC member, then you are highly qualified for this service, for this kind of service. That's why we need to have strong entry barriers for the new members. We need to qualify them. We need to continue working on standardization in social and traditional media measurement. And this is, I guess, one of the main goals of AMIC.
Great. So let me, oh, go ahead. You don't like going up to the podium. Everybody wants to. They've discovered the mic. I can sit where I am and do this.
I'm shy. I suppose I just have a question more so. It's I'm just wondering how many people would put the fact that they are a member of AMEC on an RFP.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, no, because I think it's important to include AMEC so that clients are educated and that they know that you are a member and that maybe your competitors aren't, and it's something that they could investigate then from a standards point of view.
Great.
It's our job as well to promote them.
Yeah.
So okay, Ale?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the, I don't know, how many are there RFPs regarding kind of international or global coverage of our services, meaning our RFPs have been quite local. So how does it, when you say AMEC here many times, how many in a year there has been in history of RFPs where all of us could respond to in this room? Because all of us sit in different geographic places and are experts in different geographic area mainly.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So let me ask the, I don't know the answer. I said 72, but that was made up.
That you have a database where we can go and see.
No, yeah. If I did, I would not be telling anyone. That's every RFP. I have a search term. They all automatically get funneled to me. So let me let me ask everybody else to take another piece of paper. Do we have enough of those to go around? Yeah. So, I'm curious. We would take. It doesn't matter what color piece of paper this is. Just make sure we collect them all together so we know what the question was. But again, I would say this is another one of those on top and on the bottom. All right. So on the top, what are things that you think we can all agree to as AMEC members? So that's getting to your point, Tim. You know, what are things that we would say are standard, and this would be a standard response if somebody sent an RFP out. Every AMEC member would answer these things in a consistent way, or should answer them in a consistent way. Are there any of those? And on the bottom of that, what are areas in which we will compete? And you look puzzled, or is that intrigued? Intrigued, I'll say. No. Like this. So on top, are there any elements upon which we would all expect or hope to have a consistent response? I mean, if one of the things we're talking about is streamlining, educating the market, what would those things be at the top? Or are they? Do they exist at all? And on the bottom, in what ways do we compete? Thank you. Somebody's always cleaned up after me. All right. Okay. Sorry, you're doing a good job of reading through, or are you just compiling them? Are you actually reading them? See if you can pick out some commonalities on things that we agree with. Just flip through those real fast. And Liam, if you would look at the things, the areas in which we compete. And while we're doing that, I'm gonna ask for someone on either side of the room to address the one specific question. You get the request for AVEs in an RFP. How do you respond? So are you raising your hand or just putting your purse on your shoulder?
I'm next down.
Oh, all right. Oh, well, thank you.
Say sorry, I have to leave.
Thank you. So would anyone else, does anybody have a recommended response for that? Go ahead, come right on up front.
Evgeny, Libris Agency. When we receive such a request, actually hopefully we didn't receive it for like 2 last years, but because we did a lot of educational work among our clients, if we receive, we show them another metric. It's like also with dollar. For traditional media, it's PR value. We use it with qualitative indicators like sentiment, like position in the magazine, like key message, and all other things. So that downside the value of AVE. And actually, this is just a quality indicator, just quality parameter, and it's good if you to compare it to the past periods, or if you to compare it to the competitors of the client. That's the only one.
So you get an RFP request that includes AVEs, and you say, we'll do it, but we're going to include all these qualifiers.
Absolutely.
So that's your response. Would anyone have a different response? I would. Anybody? But you've heard a lot of me. Would anybody else have a different response? Now, I haven't seen what you wrote on the, what would we have as common or standard you would expect from all AMEC members, and what would we would compete on. But my expectation is that AMEC members would respond and say, we disavow, if you want to use that phrase, AVEs, in compliance with the Barcelona Principles, and a link to the Barcelona Principles on the AMEC site as a way to kind of, and that's one that, as an individual, I would kind of expect to be a common response from AMEC members.
That's what we do as well.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Yes, we send them to Barcelona Principles, so we explain them. Actually, from the early beginning, even before Barcelona Principles, whenever we used AVE, we use like peer value. So we describe why you shouldn't use AVE.
Okay. Okay. So you're engaging in that. Yeah, you're engaging that in that practice. So, Sarah, what were some of the common ones that you saw?
For standard response, I think what's coming across written in quite a few different ways is methodology, parameters, standard quantitative responses, so KPI responses, and I'm presuming we're looking at volume, media type analysis. And then the things we compete on, obviously the top one was price, our reputations, our methodologies in qualitative data analysis, and our analyst insight.
Okay.
We had pretty much exactly the same.
Okay, both sides of the room doing a very similar thing. So the question is, can we translate this into some sort of action on behalf of AMEC? Do you think that from our discussion that we can put any of this into action to accelerate these things? And what you're nodding your head. In what form do you think that could take place?
Well, I think for a client, and the Council of PR firms has done this, where they basically have guidelines for writing an RFP for hiring a PR agency. So I could see writing guidelines, but to me that's a little bit passé. I think we should almost do, a series of like 8 to 10 2 or 3 minute videos that answer kind of key questions that you would essentially address in a Q&A format, but make them videos because clients are more likely to watch those videos than read thing, and then give them the template of here's a recommended template as opposed to whatever crap you were going to use.
I love it, and I just started laughing because as you're talking about that, I'm like, oh yeah, one of the great things to do would be to able to say, to have people go, oh, I find this absolutely infuriating when blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And, I know the person on the other end doesn't know what they're doing when they blah, 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 as a way to educate them. And then I was thinking, well, who could do that? Who would be the voice in that sort of situation? And then I thought, how great! I'm sorry, I'm getting all the way to production values. I'm thinking it's the dark room with the digitized voice. The interview. What was the worst RFP you ever got? And why was it? Anyway,
there's actually a really good one on YouTube that is I think it's more for market research. I don't know if you've seen it about RFPs and market research. It's hilarious with those. What are those characters that respond? I'll try to look it up and send it to you. Maybe you can send it around.
Okay.
But it's
I love the hilarious idea because I would love for AMEC to own the SEO on RFP for media analysis. When somebody says, Because you would expect anybody who's going to go out there and say, "Oh, I have to write an RFP on media analysis." When they do a search on that they would go to the Amex site, and we would have an opportunity to serve them. Because I mean, you were asking the question earlier about who even knows about Amex. I have one last issue that I wanted to touch on, or one last topic, and that is. What's a reasonable expectation? And I'll ask you each to respond to this. Our guest in the middle. What's a reasonable expectation if you have lost an RFP? I will tell you, I couldn't find, because it happened several years ago, I couldn't find the email. And I may have misremembered, it may have actually been a phone call. Had invested an enormous amount in an RFP response. Had been, we were shortlisted, and then we were told basically, it's really down to you, but we need you to do this. We were kind of strung along and made multiple trips to the client site, which was kind of out of the way. Kind of wintry when I didn't want to go there, and we were basically told no in a way that I had never heard before, which was, you've not been awarded the contract. We have invested a tremendous amount of time in going through this process. We need to now move forward. And spending any more time with you would be a distraction. So please don't call anyone. Don't ask them questions about why or who or whatever. And if you violate this is from the procurement person, if you violate this in email or phone calls, we will exclude you from the possibility of doing business with us in the future. And I mean, I can remember just sitting there just going, really? Really? Has anybody else had any sort of response like that?
That's very extreme, but much more common is you get what I call a perfunctory response. In other words, a very short, meaningless reason, and you're not allowed to interrogate the detail because they're worried if you do, it'll open up a can of worms. They don't want to have a big debate about the proposal.
Right.
So that's more normal.
So go ahead, Angie.
Well, I mean, just in working with my clients, I'm making sure that we exit with each of the non-winners in as decent a way as we can, and tell them what it was that wasn't exactly the right fit, because they're all good or they wouldn't have made the finals. So they should know that to start with, and then it's down to specifics. So.
I love it. You've coming from, you're sensitive to our side of the business.
I really am.
So, I know I've written down a few things that I think are a basic courtesy. I would say professional courtesy. But I'm interested in. I've got a comment or question over here. I'm interested in. I don't have time. We don't have time to do a survey on this, but just I'll ask for your feedback. Or what do you think are kind of the minimum expectations if you have lost? What are the minimum expectations on the other side? Go ahead.
Yeah, I've worked in previous organisations whereby I've dealt with management have told us that they've actually learnt more from losing RFPs than actually winning them. And it's actually helped them to mould their overall strategy in terms of how they approach RFPs. That they, some of the best, learnings they've ever made was actually from feedback from a client, very open feedback on why they actually lost the RFP. Was it price? Was it service? Was it generic? As you say, the cookie analogy and the cookie cutter. Was it just that they rolled it out the same sort of RFP response continuously? So. That's something that I think for me, I've been in sales. I work for Cantor Media. That it's important that we understand why we've lost it, and not just we lost because it was price. you know, is there any other factors? Was it the writing? Was it the response? Did we meet the expectations? So it's important that we get as clear feedback. Because, you know, if you've gone to the effort and the courtesy to actually write and respond to an RFP, it's important that you get that in return.
Mm-hmm. Great. I couldn't agree more.
I think it's just as important to know why you've won it as why you haven't won it. And I think being told that you've come a very close second when, of course, all the other 4 have come a very close second is entirely unacceptable behaviour on behalf of the prospective client. And at the very first issuing of the RFP, what we like to try and do is to say, yes, we will respond to this on the following conditions, very few conditions, but one of the conditions is that you will guarantee to give us 15 minutes of your time in a phone call, whether we win or lose this piece of business, and you will honestly and candidly explain to us why we either have or haven't won it. But I think I think negotiating that up front is fine, because it's not at the end of the process saying, oh, please can we have 15 minutes, but negotiate that up front, but make sure that we do it, whether particularly when we win it as well as when we lose it, because of course, you know, human psychology, the fundamental attribution error, everything that goes well for us, we say it's all down to our brilliance, and everything that goes badly, it's all down to external circumstance. Well, actually, it might have been external circumstance that won it for us, but let's find that out. Brilliant.
I'm glad we have this recorded, because I think that's my point exactly, and I think that's a no, that's not my point. That's your point. And I share it. How about that? I shouldn't steal that. That's your point. So thank you. And I agree. We've learned more in the RFPs and the business that we've lost than in what we've won. But I'm not interested in learning in that way. I just want to win. You know, so, and to me, I think that's your comment is brilliant, to negotiate that up front. And that is what I was going to pitch, that we include kind of in a framework or a recommendation or whatever, if you're going to issue an RFP to AMEC members. These are expectations that we have. You know, one is that we would be honest in responding to what our capabilities were, and another one being, yes, we expect feedback from you, you know, win or lose, as to, you know, as to why and what we can learn from it. And so I think that's brilliant. Yes, one.
I have a question for the rest of the room. How do you feel about not being included if the client, for instance, I pre-select vendors, and I usually go through a demo with them and get down to 3 or 4 that I think really have a chance. But I'm friends with so many of them, to not give them the chance to have the RFP also seems rude. But what do you prefer? Do you prefer to not have the RFP if you're really not a fit, or do you still want it?
I'll speak up to say, I think entering into a game, I have no opportunity to win, maybe an opportunity to learn, but more often it's just an opportunity to waste time and money. Yeah, and so right. my preference is I can learn from ones that I lose enough as it is to learn on ones that I do have a capability to win. So
I know you do.
But it also depends on who's the judge, doesn't it? I mean, if it's,
yeah.
You know, if I get an RFP, if I don't get an RFP from either of these two sitting in front of me, I'm not going to take as much umbrage, because I know that they'll have made that on the basis of good knowledge about the industry. But if there are people making judgments which are just, you know, take a pin and take every third company out of the AMEC book, I mean, that would rile me a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So we're out of time, but so I didn't get. I'm going to have one little concluding thing. But what I'm going to ask now is that that you take one of these pieces of paper only if you don't have a business card. How about that? And if you are willing to continue as we take the kind of discussion, the findings which we have from your responses to this fantastic piece of primary research that we've conducted in this room in the past 90 minutes, and as we come away with putting this into practice and presenting it, to AMEC for, some sort of publishing or whatever that may be. To the degree that you wish to participate in that, be it just as, hey, I would love to, be able to comment on it. I would like to, I'm willing to jump onto a conference call or whatever that may be. Either jot an email address down on a piece of paper, or hand a business card to Sarah, Liam, or me on your way out. But I'm sorry I didn't get to the point where I told you 5 ways to beat us in an RFP. But that'll be the next. There's still time. There's still time. So yeah, that'll be over. That'll be over drinks. If you can get me drunk, then I'll tell you. And they're all laughing. And those who know me know that's a.
Not with American cocktails, but now we are here.
So I thank you all very much.
If you Google the RFP, you will see that video and I'm remembering it has some foul language. So if you don't want that, don't watch it.
Don't have your kids in the room when you watch this?
Funny. It's very funny.
The RFP is all you have to do. All right.
Just type that into Google. The video that comes up.
All right. Thank you very much. I hope we can get a lot more efficient on our RFPs and we start winning a lot more business. So thank you.